At last, we finally have an episode about Lisa. It's only taken us 6 episodes to have an episode that focuses on Lisa Simpson, with the previous ones focusing, of course, mostly on Bart and Homer. Finally, it's Lisa's turn to shine, but she is too sad to shine. This is one episode that I've seen quite a lot because, as I've mentioned before, I often try and watch The Simpsons all the way through, but then I get sidetracked and forget where I get up to and start from the beginning. So I have seen this one quite a few times, and to be honest, it's not one of my favourites. And I think there are 2 reasons for that. One, Lisa is triggeringly depressed. And the second reason is that I'm not the biggest fan of the blues, and I don't really like jazz music. That's obviously not a fault of the episode, but for me personally, considering Lisa is basically constantly playing jazz blues, it's not that pleasing for me. I do think it's also quite weird that the first time we get an episode all about Lisa, they decide to make her basically have the onset of depression. You can tell what her teenage years are going to be like. And I find that that's a very weird choice for us to get to know Lisa through that. But we do learn that she does have this kind of downbeat, almost melancholic attitude, but we don't get to know too much else about her, which I think is a shame because there was never really the opportunity to learn about, her love of animals or her interest in politics or anything. We are just being told that this character is depressed. But of course, we do get to learn that she plays the saxophone. That gives us a lot of saxophone music. I'm not sure who played the saxophone or who plays it when she plays it in the opening titles as well. I don't know who to credit for that. The music is very well played. It's just not to my liking, and because there's an abundance of it, it means that I don't really like listening to this episode too much. The fact that it was released in 1990 doesn't come across. This is something that is very apparent with The Simpsons. Even these early episodes, they just don't seem to age. There's no date to them. Literally there is, but they seem timeless, and this is certainly the case here. It's something that a lot of people can relate to, this kind of downbeat, why am I even bothering attitude. And the episode, much to its credit, the episode never tries to convince Lisa that life is worth living, or that there's a point to life. But it does tell her that her family are there for her, and that she's allowed to be sad. And that when she's stopped being sad, her family will still be there for her. And there's one scene in a car, which I won't spoil in case you haven't seen it, but the scene in the car with Marge and Lisa, it choked me up a little bit. I thought it was very moving and really, really well written, with some beautiful delivery of the lines from Marge, and some very fun flashbacks from Marge's own childhood as well, which I thought were really interesting and very entertaining. We can tell which character Marge takes after. So I think even though the music aspect of it I didn't really care for, and the fact that we didn't really get to know Lisa in a more positive way, despite that, I think it's got a lovely message, and I love the fact that they didn't try and give her a reason to smile other than just being there for her. And that's something that a lot of people don't really acknowledge. Speaking as somebody who has chronic depression, there's nothing worse than people trying to make you smile. Obviously, it's nice now and then, but when people tell you to just cheer up and tell you that it's not as bad as it seems, it's a little bit inconsiderate and it doesn't really change anything. But just being there and letting them be sad while it runs its course, I think it's a lovely message. And I really liked that bit. The final third of the episode I thought was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. It's funny, even though it's dealing with a serious subject. It is very funny still. I think it's well written. Obviously, brilliant voice cast. I really thoroughly enjoyed it for the most part. Moaning Lisa may not be my favourite episode. It may not be exactly what I would have wanted for an introduction to Lisa Simpson. But it has a certain message to deliver. A very important message. And it's something that I think it does very well. Mona Lisa may never ever be a personal favourite of mine, but it's certainly, in its own ways, a very good episode.